Hey everyone, Kaylee here. So today I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of the pull apart, how to pull your braid apart and make it look super voluminous. I do this in almost every one of my tutorials, so I thought it was about time that I gave you guys an in-depth explanation on how to do it and do it right. Also how to troubleshoot some problems that you might be having. So the first method is to pull on each individual part of the braid. You can see here that I'm pulling on each little bit of the braid to make it as voluminous as possible. And this is true whether you're working with a French braid, a Dutch braid, fishtail braid, or a normal braid like you see me working on here. You just want to pull little bits of your braid at a time until you get it as voluminous as you want to. And I'm going to go into some more tips and tricks on that a little later in this video. I will go ahead and say this is my favorite method. I think you get the most volume and the best looking braid out of this. So if you want to take a little bit of extra time and get a really voluminous braid, this one is the way to go. The second method is a little bit easier, and basically you just pull on either side of the braid and you basically just pull it apart going up and down the braid until you have this as large as you want it to be. And you can see that I'm just going in little sections and yeah, basically just pulling on either side of it. You want to make sure that you're pulling from kind of the middle of each braid, so you don't want to pull on just the outside, you want to go from the middle out, that way you get it as voluminous as possible. And that is the second method. So as you can see, the braid on the left, which is the first method, has a little bit more volume and shape to it, which is why I prefer the first method over the second. So now let's get into some more info that will help you out. First of all, we're going to troubleshoot, and the first problem you might have is getting this awkward loop where you pull on the braid and you just have that unwanted extra loop of hair. What you're going to do is pull on the hair that's around the loop that you have, and when you do that, you're going to actually pull the slack out of the loop so that it looks normal again and it looks kind of closer to the way that you want it to look. You can see that I'm just pulling on this section that's diagonally across from it, and it's taking all the extra slack out of the loop so that it looks exactly like you want it to. And then you can go ahead and mess around with that section and do whatever you want to with it, but at this point you have successfully avoided what could have been a hair disaster. So moving on to the other hair disaster that can happen, you end up with what I call the half loop, where it's halfway out and halfway in. Basically, to fix that, you're just going to gently pull on the hair that's left in the middle, and as you do that, it's going to fan out, and as it gets more and more voluminous, it's going to come out to meet the kind of outside loop so that it all becomes one nice big voluminous piece of braid. Now, to avoid loops altogether, make sure that when you're pulling on this, you change your grip. So here I'm pulling on a little piece, and then I let go and I pull on a different piece. Then I let go and I pull on a different piece again. So you're never pulling on the same piece over and over and over again. When you pull on the same piece, that's what creates loops. So to avoid them, all you have to do is just change where you're pulling the hair from. So here are some more tips and tricks. First of all, I would say to make sure that when you braid a little bit tighter than you normally would. Now you don't want to do crazy tight, but a little bit tight adds tension so that when you pull the hair out, it will stay pulled in the shape that you want it to be in. And it also provides a really nice shape. It provides these really nice arcs to the outside of the braid, and I really like how that looks. Now on the other hand, if you braid loosely, first of all, it's really hard to avoid those loops, but even if you pull the hair out really well, you can see that it just looks sloppy and messy and you really can't get a good braided shape from it. So I would say go ahead and braid with a little bit of tension versus braiding loosely. This next tip is especially for those of you with long hair. I would say take breaks to pull the hair apart. So braid about 6 inches and then stop and pull the hair apart. You're gonna get way more volume and it's gonna happen way more easily if you do that in pieces. So, braid, pull it apart, then go ahead and braid some more, pull that apart until you reach the end of your hair. Now, if you have long hair and you braid all the way down your hair and then try to pull it apart, you can see it's a struggle. Like, it was not easy. I did eventually get it loosened up and I was like, okay, I've got this. But then I saw the end and I realized I would have to re-braid the end again. And I was like, you know what? No, this method does not work. Just stop, pull it apart. It's way easier. For more volume, especially on fine or silky hair, I recommend adding in products. You can add in dry shampoo, texturizing spray, or a texturizing powder depending on how much hold you want and how much grip you need. If you're using a dry shampoo, use it before you braid. Just spray it through the middle and ends of your hair, shake it out, and then go ahead and braid it, and then you're able to pull it apart. If you're using a texturizing spray or powder, apply that after you've braided your hair and then pull the hair apart. And I think you guys can tell I get way more volume out of this braid than I did on any of the others because I added in the product. It really helps a whole lot. And this is especially good for silky hair that doesn't want to stay pulled apart. So those are my tips and tricks on mastering the pull apart. You can see that makes a huge difference on my hair. There were no extensions used in these before and after shots. Like, it really was a huge difference. So I hope you guys try this out. And if you try it out, take pictures and send them to me on my social with hashtag KayleighMelissa, and maybe you'll be my subscriber spotlight next week. I love you guys very much, and I will see you guys in my next video on Tuesday. Mwah! Bye!